kaweefube w'okuuma eddembe ly'abasibe naddala mu kubatangira eri endwadde okugeza akawuka ka mukenenya, obulwadde obw'omusujja gw'ensiri awamu n'obulwadde bw'akafuba kiyite TB. Woofiisi eya Ssaabawaabi wa gavumenti Office of DPP ng'eyambibwako ekitongole kya Global Fund basinkanye bekikwatako omuli abakungu okuva mu kitongole ky'ebyamakomera, ekitongole kya poliisi, minisitule y'ebyobulamu, essiga eddamuzi awamu n'ebibiina by'obwannakyewa n'ekigendera okuba nti basala entoto awamu n'okubaganya ebirowoozo ku butya abasibe gye balina okuba nti bakuumibwamu naddala mu kaseera nga bakwatiddwa baleeteddwa ku poliisi wamu ne mu kaseera nga batwalibwa mu kkooti ne mu kaseera nga bali mu makomera mu kubatangira obutakwatibwa kirwadde ekyakafuba, obulwadde obwa mukenenya awamu n'omusujja gw'ensiri. Era ng'ensinkano eno yabadde egendereddwamu okulaba nti bano bakubaganya ebirowoozo ku butya ensonga ezo ezirina okuba nti zikwatibwamu, wabula okusinziira ku Aliwali Kizito ng'ono yakiikiridde woofiisi ya DPP era ng'ono Resident Chief State Attorney ow'ekitundu eky'Embale yategeeza nti wabaddewo eddibu naddala ku nsonga y'okuuma abasibe mu kaseera nga batambuzibwa ne mu kaseera nga bali mu buduukulu naddala eri ebirwadde bino, era nga yakkiriza nti wabaddewo muwaatwa oguviiddeko bano okubanga bakwatibwa endwadde ez'enjawulo olw'okuba nti bafibwako kimala, era n'ategeeza nti bano bagenda kulaba nti bino byonna bigonjoolwa n'okusobola okuba nti bakuuma abasibe mu kaseera nga batambulizibwa okufuna obwenkanya. Babeetabye mu nsonga eno bategeeza kino kijidde mu kaseera akatuufu nga obulwadde buno bufuuse baana baliwo ensangi zino ddala mu bifo ebiiramu abantu abangi ng'amakomera, era nga bagenda kukola ekisoboka okulaba nti ensonga eno enogebwa eddagala. Ensinkano eno yayimiridde mu kibuga eky'Embale, tugenda gikutuusaako ku Mosan Media.
We had a budget. Now that we are speaking of HIV, that is now emerging issues for Circle 8. Now we have a program on HIV, TB and malaria. Can't we advocate for government to put in additional budgets to these units like the police, because they already have a health facility, but there are nutritional supplements once these people have been diagnosed that they should have. So for me, I would advocate that there is an additional budget that is given to police, prisons, and also to the courts of law, so that these people can have water. People who are HIV positive or who are sick to the court, many times as judicial officers, you don't get to know this unless it is brought to your attention. So if the suspect is brought and neither the suspect nor anyone that has brought this suspect is bringing this issue to the attention of the judicial officer, definitely this person, if not, is not asking for bail, is going to be remanded. But we can avoid this. The police, since it is the starting point, they can always have this information. They can avail this information to the judicial officer, because I'm sure all the judicial officers, if told, would actually take action. For example, if one of them is having TB and that is brought to the attention of the judicial officer, definitely something will be done. The police can as well liaise with the relative of this person once they have noticed, to even make it much easier for the court to deal with this person. And I'm referring to offences that are bailable within the magistrate's court, not for those that are capital in nature. For those that are capital in nature, it might be hard for the judicial officer. But now, this person, ask, is this person on medication? Has he moved with his medicine?
I won't say anything. In most cases, we interface or interact with the inmates and suspects, and we get a lot of information. And quickly, let me start from police. Suspects are treated as criminals from the way they are handled. That's the information we get. And then delays in investigations by the DPP. That definitely the mandatory days that the suspect is supposed to stay in police goes beyond that. And then about the 6 suspects, in most cases, they don't get attention, most especially in the police. When we ask the police, have these people gotten treatment? In most cases, they say that, this suspect is lying. But now, would the person lie if he or she is sick?
I want to appreciate a fact that observance of human rights is a mandatory obligation for all. But I should also say, in respect to prison's environment, there are some exceptions. We do not provide all rights that befit a human being while in prisons. But there are those critical ones that we do provide. Some exceptions, like having sexual intercourse with your spouse, I don't think it is possible in the prison's environment. It was moved one time and left hanging. It was in suspense that prisoners should have their women have sex in the prisons. Some rooms were proposed to be built for them. But remember, if a prison's officer is to guard this inmate with his wife, how are you going to tell him, yo man, that's enough, come out? So there are so many rights that we do not provide to these people.
The fund will cater into the transportation of inmates vis-a-vis the spread of TB. We've all observed this, that they park all of them in one truck, and in case one or two has TB, what do you think would happen? Including even the prison officers, they are all loaded in that truck. And I know the police officers here. I remember there's a gentleman who told me that I was arrested one day of transporting a goat in a wrong way. I hear even animals have rights for transportation. Do we as human beings also have rights to transportation? I will need that clarification. Secondly is on the PPEs for the inmates. PPEs, personal protective equipment. In prisons, we've observed this, and also in police. The inmates, they always give them to go and pour their waste. But if you look, the protection, are they protected?
When accused persons are brought to court, they are brought to court for the reason that all the institutions that are involved are trying to fight crime. We are trying to fight criminality. So while we look at their human rights and while we take into consideration their fundamental human rights, we should also bear in mind the need to fight crime and the need to also consider why they were brought to court and the interest of the complainants in these cases. We talk about congestion in prisons. Somebody talked to Boma. I don't know what Boma means. I hope somebody will be able to clarify. But the settings in the prison are designed in a particular way to enable people reform. If the prison setting was to take care of all the human rights that we are talking about, and it's like this hotel, all of us would love to live in that setting. So there is a reason. I believe the prison officers should elucidate more on this. There is a reason why they are subjected to that kind of treatment. And for me, I don't want to believe it is about issues of human rights and so on. At that point, your liberty has already been taken off. You don't have the right to liberty. So while we talk about human rights, let's have in mind the intention of reform, the intention of fighting criminality, and the fact that those situations or the living conditions under which which prevails in prison are designed in that way to enable people reform. Thank you.
And whether they are already on treatment or not, or they have not been screened, or continuing even when they go back home. Those are the things we are doing. So maybe take home for the officers who have attended today. like we discussed, most of you have not seen us on ground. We have just started this program, but we trained in those 53 centers, 54 centers which we initiated the program. We trained 4 officials, and we had 2 health workers from each station and 2 administrators, and that was either DPC or OC station. So we have that manpower on the ground. So we request that the officers here, RPC, yes, and the other officers, please, when you go back, identify. I'm going to share a list of those we trained. So on Monday parade, let them have a sensitization meeting, a sensitization session, so that they intensify this information, so that we incorporate. We are trying to incorporate it. We have all that is required to implement this program, and we are seeing, because we train very few people, because among all the stations we had only 4 people, and they don't work in the same place. Our clinic officers, the clinical staff, are always busy in the clinic, so they can't do this work alone. So we need all officers to have this information, especially the CID department, to have this information so that we are able to screen these people, and we make sure that we end TB by 2030.
Senior Superintendent of Police, the Regional Police Commander for this region of Elgon. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you belatedly to Elgon region. I hope you have enjoyed your stay here. I want to report and affirm that this region is very calm and secure. Feel free, you are safe. I want to thank the Madam Anita and your team for organizing this stakeholders engagement. I believe all of us here are more or better informed about the subject matter that has been discussed here by various presenters. And for us as police, this touches us even more, because we are the first line of contact with this wananchi through that line of the criminal justice. And like Madam is trying to observe, usually when we are dealing with these people, we don't bother so much about our safety. And this is largely to do with some of the challenges. Because some of these PPEs that we are talking about here are not readily available with us at our stations at all times. If they are there, sometimes you find them at the main station, but when you go deep in police posts, where most of these cases originate from, the situation is different. But the police force is working tirelessly to ensure that these logistical challenges are addressed as time goes on. I want to assure you that me and my team, we shall do whatever is possible to ensure that this program is implemented as required. I want also to call upon, in forces we don't call upon, we direct. I want to direct my DPCs and your teams to ensure that when you go back, make sure this program is actualized. I am already informed that some of your personnel participated in previous trainings, so make sure those officers who are trained also train others, so that at the end of the day, we are all on the same footing. And these materials, such as the registers, should be put to use really, so that when my brother from one of human rights defenders comes to the station, he should see some semblance of seriousness in as far as that aspect is concerned.
My name is Aliwali Kizito. I'm the resident chief state attorney, Mbale. I also represent the regional office of ODPP, that is Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And today, we have convened here as stakeholders in the criminal justice system. And basically, we're looking at the following institutions: the Office of Uganda Police, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Judiciary, Uganda Prison Service, Ministry of Health, and civil society organizations. And the purpose of this training is to engage our stakeholders on how we can break barriers to prevention and the treatment of human tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, and malaria. So our concern is to equip our, first of all, we are working together with the Global Fund. Global Fund is funding Uganda government through those different sectors. And the interest is to how we can observe human rights of patients suffering from malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV, who get into contact with the law, who pass through the criminal justice system. We are looking at issues of suspects who are received at police stations, who are infected with HIV, AIDS, and malaria. How do we ensure that as they get into the prison, the police, into police contact with the police, how do we continue to ensure that they continue to receive their treatment, and also to get special treatment from other people who are not sick, and also to avoid them from infecting other suspects in custody, but also protecting the officers who are handling them. Those who go to infect areas, how should they be protected so that they don't contract these diseases? So the same continues through the chain system, through the court. When these patients are received into the court, in the judicial service, judicial process, how are they treated? We are looking at how we can equip our stakeholders to give special attention to them where they are in court. Their cases should be prioritized. They should not take long, because when they take long in the court cells, they will still infect others. Also, it also helps magistrates to make decisions whether to grant bail. They should be guided. If someone has complained about being HIV positive, being suffering from TB, what measures can the courts do to make sure their rights are respected? And the same continues up to the prison facilities. How are they treated to make sure that their rights, their human rights, are respected as patients, even when they are in prison facilities?